we literally have it set up where you've got your budget and then you pick your calibers, and it's like a mutual fund kind of thing where you put percentages. So you say, I want 25% to go to 9mm. I want 10% to go to my 308. I want, another 25% to go to my 300 blackout. And so it's so different than the e-commerce experience.
Welcome to the Gun Owners of America State of the Second podcast. I'm Kailey.
And I'm John, and today we're joined by Dan and Danielle from Ammo Squared. How are you guys?
Good.
Great.
Are you enjoying the Smoky Mountains?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Just gorgeous.
Let's get started with tell us a little bit about who Ammo Squared is, what you guys do, and how the business came about.
Sure. Yeah. So husband and wife team. We literally started out of our garage in 2015. So it's kind of like the classic, American business dream, right? At the time, so 2015, we were just coming out of one of the ammo shortages. And at the time, I was working in tech as a marketer, product marketer, and I had a 401k. A lot of people have a 401k. And I thought, I can't find ammo anywhere. Store shelves were empty. 22 was like, hen's teeth, you couldn't find it. And so I thought, well, if I would have just been putting away a little bit of ammo into like a 401k, ammo savings account, whatever you want to call it, and then I could just draw it or I could just pull it when there's a shortage, that would be ideal. And so we basically started it. Mm-hmm. The first iteration was actually kind of funny because I was in tech, but I'm not a developer. And so I don't really know how to build anything, right? What I did know was WordPress. And so I built the first site on WordPress. I remember when we got our first 10 customers, it was like crazy. It was like, wow, we've got people actually signing up. And we had 4 calibers. So we had 9mm, 45, 223, and 308. And people could sign up in $5 increments back then. And what we were doing was we were actually selling in $5 increments, and then people could ship whenever they wanted. And we were actually vacuum sealing when they were in a full box. And so I remember for a while, we just were vacuum sealing like 7 rounds of 45 self-defense. And well, that lasted what? How long?
Not very long.
Not very long.
We quickly pivoted.
Yeah. So a few months. So our boxes literally had like the vacuum sealed bags. And then we did a little label that we wrote on it. Would be like 7 rounds. I remember this specifically. It was like 7 rounds, 45 ACP, federal HST. And we sent it off to the guy. We had, so our first, we had one customer for a long time. We only had one customer for a long time. And then we started like maybe 4 months later, we started to kind of.
Well, you wrote a blog or a blog post that went, not
true.
Super viral, but it spread.
It was better than a box of underwear getting ammo delivered to your door or something, and it was comparing like, cause there was all the under, there probably still are, but the underwear, subscription services. Yeah. And so I wrote that, and then, that's when we started adding people. But kind of just the story. I mean, we were in our garage for the first 2 years of the business. And then we moved to like a 1,400 square foot warehouse, and then an 1,800 square foot warehouse. And now we're in a 7,500 square foot warehouse. And we're looking at probably a 20 or 30,000 square foot warehouse, probably in Texas or something.
Wow, that's awesome. So explain to people how it works and from the consumer side of things.
Yeah. So basically, if you think of an ammo subscription with the ability to store the ammo for as long as you want and then get it shipped automatically. So there's really kind of 3 components. So there's an auto buy. So you set up your budget, you pick your calibers, and it will auto buy that for as long as you want. And we have it, you could do it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly. So it's very flexible. And then that ammo, what we've done is we've kind of commoditized it in a way, in that you're signing up for a caliber and a grade or a purpose. So 9mm practice, 9mm self-defense. Those self-defense, we've got 2. We've got a premium and then just a regular self-defense. Like 308 hunting or 7.62 practice. And then what our customers will do is they'll actually accumulate that in their online account. And then once they reach whatever level they want, we have shipping triggers. So you can say, I want my ammo shipped every $300, every 1,000 rounds, every 6 months, anything like that. And then what we do that's pretty unique and different is that we'll take that generic. So let's say 9mm practice. And for example, let's say the customer has 500 rounds. And what we'll do is we'll send them a mix of brands and bullet weights. So they're all, we don't manufacture ammo, so it's all factory ammo. So right now, for example, we're shipping Fiocchi, PMC, Federal. There's a local ammo company in Idaho that's manufacturing 9mm right now, Federated. So that's kind of something else that we try to do is kind of include brands that people might not have heard of before. And people love it. I mean, because it's something different.
Yeah. So when we talked, it's an interesting concept to me because you guys are, first off, I get to try a whole bunch of ammo that I may not try. The other thing that we were talking about is like, let's just say I bought in on some 300 blackout and I decide I don't want it anymore. Mm-hmm. That's another option that you guys have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we literally, you can exchange it into another caliber.
As long as you haven't taken shipment yet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Because you can't return ammo. That's the other thing too. Is like if you buy it from, Cabela's or somewhere, you can't go and return ammo. They don't want it back because there's liability issues. So you can, any of your inventory in your Ammo Squared inventory, you can exchange for other calibers, and you can also sell it back. We've kind of changed how the system works a little bit, but basically you have your main account, and then you create, at least we're kind of still calling them ammo asset accounts or just ammo accounts. And so you can take that entire account and say, oh, I just need the money. And so you just delete it out, and then you basically are selling it back to us. That's how that works.
So how does that work? We saw during 2020 and 2021, there was even into beginning of 22, we saw an ammo shortage.
Yep.
And hopefully we don't have another one on the horizon, but how does that work when it comes to an ammo shortage like that, where let's just say I have 1,000 rounds of 9mm that I'm not going to want anymore or don't need because I've switched calibers, and I want to sell it back to you. Does that give you the ability to be flexible with your customers?
So actually that kind of gets into more of the pricing, because what we do is we have a market price. So it models kind of we go out and we gather the high, low, and then the median, and then we price just below the median. So for example, 9mm practice. So during the last shortage during COVID, I mean, it went from 25 cents to 65 cents, right? And so in this scenario where if you've got 1,000 rounds or whatever, you could sell it back to us at the market. And so, you could technically make some money, or you could put that into another caliber. But with the shortage situation, so one thing that I always tell people is we don't have a magic wand to make ammo appear when there isn't any in the market, right? And so during 2020, it was actually a major test of our business model, because we had customers that were hitting the ship button because they couldn't get ammo anywhere. And then they were getting the ammo, and then they were, taking it to the range or telling their friends about it. And those friends were signing up. And so July and August of 2020, we had just a massive inflow of new customers that we had to put in a wait list because we weren't able to get more ammo. And so just like anybody else, but what our customers were basically doing was they were essentially pre-buying so that they didn't have to stand in line at like a, Cabela's or go and do the notifications online and say, oh, and then have it be like concert tickets and try to get, a case of ammo. And so they were pre-buying with us. And then once we got ammo, they got ammo.
That's fantastic. I mean, your business model intrigues me. I find it super interesting. I've heard about you guys. We talked about this when you and I talked on the phone through Griffin or Graham Bates.
Oh yeah,
GB Guns. At GB Guns, who's a good friend of ours, a great guy. But as that's what intrigued me, to be able to put ammo aside and not have to store it in my own house. It was an intriguing idea to be able to have it stored somewhere and have it shipped to me when I'm ready to get it, and not have to fork up all the cash right up front. I can put it aside and with you guys and keep going and building up until it's ready to come to me. And that's totally different than what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. And one thing, when you think about the gun industry, there isn't a whole lot of like tech, like you would think of
digital tech.
Digital tech. Yeah. Obviously because it's such a physical product. There's constantly new physical products coming out. But as far as like online type technology, so I come from kind of a SaaS background, software as a service. And so essentially what we've done is kind of take ammunition and make it into like a SaaS product, because you're able to buy ammo now automatically. In fact, the program that we use to collect payments is a SaaS based product. So people use it for, software products that people are paying for every month, and we've modified it. And then we have our own site, which is custom built.
No longer WordPress.
Yeah, no longer WordPress. That's right. I forgot about that. We actually did a WeFunder. So in 2020, we did an equity crowdfund, and we raised about $400,000 from 650 small investors. Most of them were our customers, in order for us to be able to pay to build a custom site. And so there's actually a lot of tech that people don't see, and that's probably the best kind of tech, is just that it's intuitive. And so like when you think about, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to set up an auto buy, that ammo has to go somewhere. So it has to look at our warehouse and say, okay, first of all, do I have that ammo, right? Because that's one thing I don't do, is I'm not going to say, oh, I've got this ammo for you, but I really don't, because that'll put us in a bad situation come the next, shortage. And so it's got to look at that, and then it's got to allocate it. It's what we call allocating the ammo into the customer's account. And then it's by a fraction of a round. So it's based on the budget. And so like if your budget's $50, you might buy, I'm just going to throw out some numbers, 47.2 rounds of something. And then the next month, if the price goes, let's say down, you'll buy 49.8 rounds. And then those will add together until eventually you have full shippable boxes, because we can't, ship fractions of rounds, and we're not vacuum sealing anymore, right? So
that ship has sailed.
Yeah. But there's just a lot of tech, I guess, in our system that's kind of hidden from the average user, I guess. And I it's kind of interesting, because we're when we went to SHOT Show, we're always looking for other technology companies in the space, and there's just not too many.
One of the things that excites me, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people that hear this and are like, ooh, I don't like the idea of owning ammo and not having, my hands on it immediately. But for somebody who is wanting to build up a supply of ammo, or somebody who is on a tight budget where you can't go purchase, a full box of ammo a month, or maybe you don't have the discipline to not spend every dollar in your bank account. Let's be honest. Not everyone is financially well off or super financially literate. And so what I like about your program is you can start somewhere. Whether that is, your $5 buy-in, or whether it's allocating, hey, here's $100 a month, because I do want to have the variety to try things out. I do want to see, the higher end of the market and maybe the lower end of the market, and, have a good, fair price at it. And it allows for some diversity, because sometimes your local gun store doesn't have a ton of diversity in the brands, because they don't have the warehousing or the floor space to do that. So it's very interesting, from the consumer side to, digest exactly what it is you're doing.
And that's the biggest thing we struggle with, is really the education piece, is like, because you have the status quo, everybody knows the status quo. You go to the store, you buy your ammo, or you go online, you buy your ammo, it's shipped to you. And then when people sign up for our stuff and they don't quite get it yet, the one question we get the most is what?
I was going to say the biggest complaint, but you go.
It's like, when is my ammo going to ship?
Oh yeah.
Or why haven't I got my ammo yet? And we've really changed our site. So in the early days, it looked a lot more e-commerce-y than it does now. It's hard when you go through all the hoops and set up your account. And we literally have it set up where you've got your budget and then you pick your calibers, and it's like a mutual fund kind of thing where you put percentages. So you say, I want 25% to go to 9mm. I want 10% to go to my 308. I want, another 25% to go to my 300 blackout. And so it's so different than the e-commerce experience, but we still get that, right? Because of the education piece. And the one thing that I usually like address with people is, if you look at it like a system, where we say it all the time too, is you should have ammo at home. You should be shopping deals. It's like, we shouldn't be your
only source of ammo.
Yeah. But if you have your at-home supply and your ammo squared supply, and you're drawing down your at-home supply because you're going shooting, you're training, you're doing what you're supposed to, and then every month you just have automatically coming out of your paycheck, you don't even notice it. And it's just building up and building up and building up. At any point, you can either just say, oh, just send me my ammo, and then it flip-flops, right? And then you build it up again. Or you can just leave it as a security blanket so that when you can't find ammo, you say, oh, send me my ammo. And then,
that's exactly what happened during 2020. People couldn't find ammo. Yeah. And we had customers who'd been accumulating with us for like 3 years.
Right.
And they just said, ship me my ammo. And we sent them their, most of them were like $10, $20, $30 a month of ammo they'd been collecting for several years. That adds up. And they're getting cases of ammo shipped to them.
And they're not paying that peak price.
Right. They're paying what they paid over the last 3 years, which was,
that's the biggest thing for so many people, that, their first experience as gun owners was quite a pricey time,
right?
To do that. And so, to have that security blanket, I think is interesting.
As a new ammo company, what was it like dealing with distributors and getting product in? And now that you guys have grown so rapidly, does the buying power seem to increase with that?
Oh yeah. It's I'll tell you kind of a story about our SHOT Show. Was it the 2020 SHOT Show?
Yeah,
right? Okay. So we went 2019. We're just small mom and pop, and it was even before our WeFunder, and we were able to sign up with a lot of the regular distributors, right?
Yeah.
RSR and Davidson's, those kind of guys. But we weren't able to really crack into the manufacturers because they needed such high volumes at the time. We didn't have it, and I'll tell you this story about who saved Ammo Squared, and it was PMC. And so during 2020, we went to the booth at PMC, and they were all in suits, right? And we didn't have an appointment, and we just kind of walked up and we're like, hey, we're Ammo Squared. We found that, I don't know if he came to us or we came to him, but it was a young guy, right? And he came to us, and we just started talking, and we said, oh, we're Ammo Squared. This is what we do. And he said, okay, that's interesting. He took my card, and he said, okay, well, I'll follow up with you. I wasn't expecting much, right? And the next day we were still at SHOT Show, and he wrote me an email. He's like, Dan, this is great. This is really interesting. And so he got us as a dealer, and our very first pallet from them was a mixed pallet. I think it was maybe $5,000, something like that.
It was pretty small.
It was pretty small. It was a mixed pallet of different calibers, right? And at this time we were already signed up with other distributors, so we were getting regular shipments of mixed ammo. We were getting pallets of mixed, and we just before our COVID hit, and the distributors were starting to run out, and we couldn't get any more new ammo in, and PMC came through.
Well, because we had placed some pallet orders with them after SHOT Show, didn't we do that?
Maybe that was it, but I remember our rep basically he sent us a pallet of M855, so green tip, right? And I remember him saying, and this is tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not gonna say how much it was at the time, but it was way more than we were able to really make at that time. But he said, I swear to you, if you do this, you won't regret it, And it was probably, I would say, 2 or 3 months of our, ammo buying at that point. But the cool thing was, we're not able to buy ammo from anybody else. And and then throughout that whole time frame, we were actually we were kind of swimming in 5.56 and 2.23 because they were just sending us pallets. And we bought that one pallet. We would buy 3 pallets at a time. And from there, it was it was kind of taken it off.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the guys over at PMC. They're great people. They've helped a lot of people out through COVID. They make a fantastic product.
Yeah.
Goodness, there's frog of a third cell. But yeah, as you know, it's hard when you're getting into this because you don't have the buying power right away.
Right.
But as more companies start seeing the business model and start seeing what you're doing, and they go, okay, that's interesting, I can get behind that, and then they start going. I mean, how many ammo brands are you guys working with right now?
I mean, we've got almost all the majors. Winchester, Fiocchi, PMC are our biggest right now. But then we get a lot of like federal and that sort of stuff through distributors. But I mean, we go direct with almost every. Well, there's just a handful that we don't go direct with, and that's the way to do it. Is the volume for us now is so huge that we're getting. We're not quite to truckload level yet, but we're doing like multi pallets.
We're close. Yeah.
Depends on what we're buying.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see when you guys get to those truckload levels.
Have like a bunch
Me
of
too.
semis show up with ammo.
Yeah, it's a sight to see. I'll tell you that.
So what is the shipping? Because obviously different states have different rules. California, you have to ship to an FFL. Like there's all kinds of different hurdles that you guys have to jump through. Give us a little bit on what that's like from your perspective.
I mean, it's definitely a pain in the butt. We follow the rules for each state. We also leave it up to our customers to really make sure that we're sometimes that they let us know about things that are happening in their state and that kind of a thing. So we get those questions a lot.
We try to keep on top of it. But the interesting thing with our program is that you can purchase ammo and not take delivery. So we've had customers who once, especially California, that was one of our big, we did a lot of business in California. And once they changed the rules where you had to go through a background check, there were a bunch of customers that were like, well, can I still buy ammo? Because I'm moving out of here in 2 years. So they would just continue to buy ammo with us. And then once they moved, we shipped it to their new address.
Or there was kind of that California Freedom Week for a little while.
Yeah.
So we had tons of California shippers California customers that were like, ship my ammo. It was like they had this window, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing is technically you don't even, our site is set up so literally you don't even have to be in the US to buy from us. We can't ship international. We can't ship to Canada. We can't ship to Alaska or Hawaii. But you can buy and accumulate. And then what you do with that ammo is, up to you as far as like selling it or exchanging it, or if you want us to ship it to somewhere else, once you come into the US or into the States in the case of like Alaska. But that's also what's really kind of unique is that it's literally like an ammo savings account where you build up your supply and you could be anywhere. You can be anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I know that ammo has to ship ground, which is annoying.
Yep.
It's such a pain in the butt because it has to ship ground. But do you guys have to deal with anybody in Alaska who wants to ship to a shipper who boats it over?
We've had discussions about that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of
They
stuff.
have to buy a lot of ammo to make it worth it for them because there are already companies that boat over ammo and sell it there. But if you're buying, a couple $100 worth of ammo and you're having it shipped, it's not really worth it. The dock fees are just so high. And so we have had people who've wanted to coordinate things like that, or they live in Washington, they have family in Alaska. It's like, cool, you guys can handle that because that is, it was just like, and we didn't have enough customers out of Alaska that we could do that with. So
I could see
more like
someday.
group buying.
I could see someday doing that where it's like essentially, you could ship it to somebody up there that then distributes it to the customers. But
Alaska's one of those tricky states.
Yeah.
It really is. Hawaii as well. It's sad to say that those states, because of their geographic location, are kind of like in trouble when it comes to getting ammo and stuff, especially ordering it from the lower 48s. I know when I was working in ammo, we had people from Guam reach out and people from
Oh.
Puerto Rico reach out, and and I would be like, yeah, we only ship lower 48. They're like, what? I'm a U.S. citizen. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I can't fly it over to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a dinghy that I can drive out there. I'm sorry. As much as I would love to, but it's crazy. Like even the trade routes through Canada to get up there, they won't allow it.
Right.
And that's
So the only way is
yeah.
by ship.
I mean, I'm sure there are ways, like obviously people in Canada shoot. I mean, they get ammo somehow. I just don't know how. Yeah, well, we're kind of focused on saturating the market. here.
Yeah, it'd be like you'd have to
Yeah.
revert. You'd have to import it and then re-import it, or import it out and then re-import it in as it goes through Canada and into Alaska. It just sounds like so much
Yeah.
work.
Yeah. But to go back to the point that you made, I like the passiveness of building up your supply, because I love the firearms community. I'm a part of the firearms community. I find myself not going to the gun store every week. Definitely don't go every week. Probably don't go every month.
Mhm.
Just because, there's a lot of life
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and stuff and obligations that I have to do. And so, for a lot of people, for me at least, I live in a pretty rural part of Tennessee, and it's an hour and some change to my quote unquote local gun store. And they actually just opened up. They're fantastic. You can go listen to their podcast. But they're decently far away. And the issue with that is I don't want to spend 2 hours in the car.
Yeah.
Right.
that's
Especially
fair.
with a toddler. And so it's hard to check prices or to just, run and get something. And so the passiveness, there is something very like reassuring of, okay, I'll allocate $20 a month to this and then let it, accumulate. And when I need it, I got it.
Yeah. And you actually reminded me too, is a lot of our customers are new to the gun industry, like they're new shooters. And because I think that they're intimidated to walk in, both in the gun store, right? They don't know what they're looking at. And then also online, they still, again, don't really know what's the right thing to buy a lot of times, what's a good deal, all of that. And so rural customers, we got a lot of
rural
rural,
customers,
right?
yeah.
Just for that exact reason, but then also just new gun owners. And because kind of part of our program is almost like wine of the month, like we're curating ammo for people. And so what we strive to do is, so our pricing is just below the median, but when we ship out, we're usually including 2 to 3 brands that kind of fall between like a high, medium, and a low. So like a budget brand, a middle of the road brand, and like a higher premium brand. And so if you've got enough of that one caliber, you're going to get all of that. And so it's so that one, you can, people can try different things, right? Like I was talking about, like the federated ammo, but then also for that exact reason, like if you're like, I don't know what to get, it's like, oh, here's 3 things, you can shoot them and go buy more of what you do like.
Yeah. And one of the other things I like is how you've got it sectioned out. You talked about how you have it as like defense, practice.
Right.
A lot of, first time gun owners, we just had our National Women's Range Day. Talked to a lot of girls there that was their first time ever shooting. And, they're full of questions. And I was talking to this one lady, and she was talking about her first range experience. And she was like, I like shooting. And she's like, this is my second time at the range. She's like, but what an expensive hobby. And I was like, yeah, it can be kind of pricey. Well, as we were talking, she was using critical defense ammo to go practice with. And I'm
boy.
like, let me save you a lot of money.
I can see the logic though. She's like, I'm practicing for defense and I
this
need
is what I
defensive
need,
ammo.
yeah.
And so, it was just that moment, like, bravo to her. Like, she was putting in the time. She was definitely putting in the effort.
Yeah.
But you don't know what you don't know. And so for it to be very clear, like, this is for practice, this is for defense. And I'm sure on your invoice, it kind of says that again. And so if you're looking at you got 50% and 50% and it all ships at one time, at least you can kind of educate yourself in that regards. Hopefully once you realize that, you can, switch those percentages a little bit. But
listen, if you guys ever get into guns, I'm in trouble. Because putting a little bit away every month for guns.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what's getting shipped to the FL? Oh, that's getting shipped. Cool.
Yeah, add a wish list.
Wish list. I'm in big trouble if that happens.
$50 every. Oh yeah, I'm so screwed. You can edit it, raise up and down.
Yeah.
Listen, it'll be like trading stocks. I'll never leave your website. You're gonna be like, man, who is this person spending like 1,000 hours a week on our website?
Well, and the gun store thing is funny because I walk into the gun store and I go, yeah, I'm just here for 2 boxes of 9mm.
Yeah.
I'm here for 2 boxes of 9. What's that in the used section? Oh, hey, I got that new so-and-so. So $300 later, I'm out of the gun store with way more things that I didn't need. But the gun store can be very intimidating for somebody who's new because it's an interesting environment, especially depending on the store. Some of the stores are very welcoming, very well knowledge, very helpful. Some of them can be very intimidating because you don't know. And we're seeing this trend now that there's a lot more knowledge of the guys behind the counter, more willing to work, more customer service focused. But if you walk into the wrong gun store and Uncle Bob's back there peddling a 1911 because it won 2 world wars, that's an issue. There can be, and it gets very daunting to go in there and you're like, okay, well, it's my first time buying a gun. I'm real nervous. I'm excited, and being able to just order ammo and go, hey, cool, I'm ready to get it shipped to my door. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and it kind of, again, for those people who don't like asking questions when it comes to what should I get, or, they don't want the lecture because they don't know the right thing, or, come to think of it, I don't know that I've ever been to a gun store except for in COVID when everybody's ammo was behind the counter because no one could be trusted. But, I don't know that anyone has ever been there to even ask a question to in the ammo section. And so I wonder how many new shooters find your website comforting just because of how it's laid out naturally answers questions that can arise.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, because you guys get a lot of new shooters, have you ever thought about putting like a list of guns and calibers so people can go, this is the gun I have and I know what caliber to go to?
We've kind of played around with that. Yeah. I guess it gets a little complicated though because there's
so many.
It's
well,
like
there's so many.
there
are so many guns that are the same configuration now in different calibers. Like SIG just came out with their P365 and 380.
Yeah.
So now you've got the same gun seemingly, and to a new shooter, they may not know the difference.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that you had that story about the buy the yellow box, right? Buy the green box. I think it was Kellyanne said talking about training new gun, women shooters.
She was talking about how it was just like she would just tell them to go to the store, buy the green box, and then come to the
because they didn't know what to buy.
They didn't know what to buy at all. Well, I mean, and as far as gun stores go, like I've been a firearms owner. For a very long time. I mean, our first date when I was 19 years old, he took me shooting. And so, just so you know, that was a long time ago. So, but it was just
24 years.
Yeah. But so as a woman walking into a gun store who does know what she's doing, it is frustrating to have people treat you like you're stupid because for a very long time that was the gun store. And so I think that people still kind of have that taste in their mouth for gun stores. And so they just don't want to go. And you're right, ammo, there aren't very many people that will answer questions for you about ammo. In fact, I had a friend who I was kind of introducing to shooting recently and we had some 9mm, just FMJ, and I had given her some self-defense as well. And I said, this is for self-defense and this is for practice. And she said, well, why can't I just load the practice? And I was like, well, let's get into a discussion about ballistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and also, you don't want something to pass through something that you're shooting at and go into a wall or go through a wall or whatever. So you want it to expand and stop. And so, but as a seasoned gun owner, it just seems second nature to me to know that. But there's so many people that don't. And so, breaking it up for them, explaining it to them, it's been really, I think, helpful for them.
Yeah, as somebody who used to work behind the gun counter, it's hard when new shooters would come in and you go, okay, how do I explain this without sounding like I'm arrogant?
Well, that's helpful, right? And there's always those guys there. Like years ago, I went to one gun store because I was looking for a 1911, and I got the whole "sweetheart, that's not what you want" spiel, which was condescending. And so I just was like, I looked at Dan, I was like, we're leaving. And we went to Cabela's, and the guy at the Cabela's gun counter was super helpful and nice. And so you just have to find the right guys, right?
Yeah, it's
or
the
right people.
Yeah,
the right people. Yeah.
The challenge is the good people generally move up and on very quickly.
Yeah.
And so, I commend the stores that focus on education, that focus on customer experience. I think women usually get a hardened feeling when it comes to, how many times are we going to have to walk into the store and be shown the pink firearm or the revolver or whatever, it is that they're trying to sell. But also, unfortunately, me being in the world that I'm in, if someone has a negative experience for whatever reason, they feel like they should call me as if like I am Google reviews. And no, believe it or
surprisingly.
not. But there are plenty of first-time gun owners that are, I would say in the 30 to 50 range males that will go in and ask questions and be openly mocked or laughed at by asking a question because you don't know this. And it's like, well, no, I never grew up around guns. Like this is my first experience. And so I appreciate the stores that are taking that seriously.
And it seems like more and more of them are.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think the people who are doing it well are expanding. I mean, how many of the gun stores that are doing a really great job, one, they're building a huge following. And so people are coming from the next county or the next town over to shop at a great place. Or they're expanding because the customer experience is so good that one place won't, fill the need that's in the area. And so you'll see all of a sudden it's like, are you a chain? And they're like, no, we just have 5 stores in the local area.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny. I thought about this the other day, and this was when I first started out behind the gun counter. A couple came in. There were some break-ins in the area. They wanted to buy a gun for home defense, and the store I worked at did not sell handguns. I'm not going to name the chain, but we sold shotguns, and they were very interested in shotguns. So I was telling them about how to practice ammo, things like that. And we were talking about the safety. I'm like, because a term that I had always heard as a kid, and red is dead. When the safety goes red, it's dead. So sitting there, I talked to him about it, and we sell it, and 2 days later he calls me. And I close the store and I pick up and I'm talking to him and he's like, hey, so I was reading the owner's manual and it says red is fire. I'm like, oh, yeah, I should probably just say that now instead of using terminology that I've heard over and over again. And it was a very humbling experience because I'm like, oh, that's just common knowledge because I've grown up with it so much. And that's something, and it made me change the way I would talk to people and learn and do stuff. And that's what I think we're seeing with most of the good stores is that the guys are being more well trained. They're more knowledgeable and they're less likely to, do the make fun of behind the counter. That being said, I still cringe every time I hear the word clip, but that's just me.
I think we all do.
I believe the technical term is magazine clip.
Oh,
magazine
clip.
It's a 30 caliber magazine clip,
That's right?
But that's just me. And you have to learn, like, that's the knowledge that most people who are not in this have heard. It's a terminology.
It's what they've heard on TV or the news or whatever.
So then when you go to, it's not actually a clip, it's a magazine. And then eventually you hear it for the 100th time and you go, clip goes in your hair, magazine goes in your gun. But you got to just learn because they don't know everything.
Mhm.
You've got to just teach them. And that's the cool thing about our community is that as people that I think the gun store people are learning is that the more people that join the community, the stronger we are. And we
Mhm.
have to be this very welcoming community.
Yeah.
And most of us are very welcoming. And we still have some bad apples out there, but it's good to see that culture is changing and shifting to be more welcoming, more knowledgeable, more understanding.
Yeah. And just think about how many new shooters we have, since COVID
Mhm.
time frame. I mean, that time alone, and I've seen different, estimates or whatever, but added, 9 million new gun owners during that time frame. And so it's no wonder too that we had a shortage because 9 million new gun owners buys 100 rounds of ammunition. Now you've got a 900 million rounds that you have to come up with.
It was no grand conspiracy. It was just a lot. Yeah.
Well, that, and all
and
the
then
other
you,
stuff.
and
like
then
all
you
the-
had
and the people buying.
individuals that were like, I need some more ammo. I only have one box, and it's like, I don't like where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so, no, I definitely, the shortages are unfortunate. And then you also had during that time the Russian ammo ban, and
Oh yeah.
you had all of the issues where it wasn't just ammo shortages, but it was component shortages, and so
Mhm.
the
Right,
reloading
primers.
community was also dealing with that. I mean, there was essentially no one was free from the feeling that, I mean, even manufacturers were having problems getting ammunition for test firing. And so
Oh, yeah.
like the supply chain was just all
It was
kinds of
such a
messed
mess.
up.
Yeah.
It's funny because the local store who used to be a dealer of mine, I used to go in there all the time and talk to him. They were telling me a story about how this guy went on their website and ordered a Glock 45, a Glock and 45 caliber, but he, when he got there, it was 45 gap, and he was like, "Oh, I ordered the wrong gun," and they're like, "Maybe you didn't.
Maybe you
I
didn't."
have ammo for this. Like,
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
a lot of ammo for this."
I used to have a 45 gap.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, like how many. So the first, I'm going to date myself some more. The first ammo scare, to the 2012 to 2015 ammo scare, 9mm, 5.56, 7.62 by 39. They were all hard to find.
22.
22, yeah. So I bought a 40 because 40 was available. You
Yep.
could buy 40 on the shelf. And
Yep.
do I regret buying a 40? Yes, because I don't shoot 40 anymore. I'm one of those people. But
I have this philosophy. I think 40 is the best handgun because you can shoot 357 SIG, 40, and
You're-
9mm.
You're absolutely, that is true.
And that's
I've
exercise.
gotten some
Just
Yeah.
got to do a barrel
But-
swap.
just barrel swap.
barrel swap.
Yeah.
But the other thing was, like, we saw this in the COVID era, is that, like, because there was such a mad rush, that I was like, okay, 40 is ammo scare proof because it was always on the shelf.
Mhm.
And then next thing I know, 40 is not ammo scare proof. It is not on the shelf. But the weird calibers that nobody was buying anymore, like the 45 gap that was no longer in popularity, nobody would really want it. People were buying those guns because you could find the ammo. Same thing with 357
Them SIG,
SIG and 32 H&R Super Magnum or whatever.
Yeah,
the weird
32 H&R Magnum, and then it's 327 Federal
Yeah.
Magnum. Yep.
and all the weird calibers that you never would, as a gun store, you would never carry because it's like, nobody buys these, or I sell one every 6 months, so I don't really need to keep a stock of it. Is those went quickly. And
Yeah.
it was surprising how many people were just like, I need to take my self-protection in my hand. I don't care the caliber. I
Yeah.
just know that's got ammo
Yeah.
and that's the gun. And I just wonder how many people have, from the pandemic, and the people who bought guns during there, went out and trained with them and now have switched to more common use rounds like 9mm and
Yeah.
5.56.
I think certainly many have, especially those that have stayed consistent with training and practicing. But I know a lot of gun owners that hadn't diversified what they owned because of they wanted to have that ammo supply, and they wanted to know that not only did they have that ammo supply, but they had the ability to get more. And so people that would have never deviated from 9 mil because they were like, this is my team. All of a sudden, like
My
you'd
team.
see him at the store, and you'd be like, "What you got there?"
They're on team 40 now.
I'm pretty sure you just started like a whole fight in the comment section on the post. Like 2 months ago, like what's going on? And it was, I decided that, a little diversification never hurt anyone.
Yeah.
Listen, I only have 33 calibers that I have to buy for. So, I mean, something like that.
That's not that many.
No, but it's like
There's always room for improvement.
there is always room for improvement.
Those are rookie numbers.
I mean, I'm sorry, my
I'm just
bad.
kidding.
But it was interesting because I was like, cool, I bought some weird calibers, but during the pandemic, like 32 Auto could find some of that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
could find 25 ACP.
Yeah.
I found that. I was like, okay, well, I really don't want to train with this little bitty thing, but I'm going to buy it so I have some ammo if I want to go out and train.
Mm-hmm.
And it was weird, like how many oddball calibers got a resurgence during
Mhm.
that, and how many more people were like, okay, I'm team 357 SIG, and everyone's like, nobody.
No one's on that team.
I love that.
But
one.
then,
You're on that team. Okay.
I call that 9mm Magnum.
It is. It really is.
But those it shows, like we can laugh about it now, but those are real game time decisions
is.
for people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the other thing is, I think it shows where innovation comes from and where the industry has been and where it's going, right? The price of ammo in certain calibers went to the point where people just couldn't afford to shoot, even if you could find the ammo.
Mm-hmm.
The price per round got so cost prohibitive that a lot of people were like, well, let's branch out a little bit.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
well, let's see. And, I think that spurs innovation, that spurs people to go, well, maybe we can come up with something even better that can, stand these, these peaks and valleys, or maybe we can come up with something that fits that niche. And, even if they're not long-standing things, it is part of the firearms history in the U.S. And those were decisions that were made. And I think in those type of moments, we really see the resilience of people branching out and trying new things and becoming gun owners. And, for many of them, what they bought is what they still own.
Yeah.
And it's what they, will always own. How many, people will say all the time, you hear the saying, your first gun is more important than your first car, because you get rid of your first car, you never get rid of your first gun. And so you hold a fondness to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be interesting when those people start telling their story of, so it was the middle of the pandemic. And
Do you
I waited in line for 4 hours.
To get a 357
Do you still-
SIG.
do you still have your first gun?
I do.
Do you still have your first gun?
No.
Do you? Oh,
No.
I know what mine was a Glock 17. What was your first gun?
Glock 17.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Glock 19.
Well, that makes
Hilarious.
sense.
Yeah.
I've been contemplating.
Y'all had money.
I scrounged for months. So it wasn't I had money. It was like I scrounged for months.
We ate a lot of
A
ramen.
lot of ramen. A lot of ramen.
Listen, I identify with the game time decision people, because there was an incident at the apartment complex that I lived at. And there was like a stabbing and a shooting that happened like right outside of the apartment complex where I lived, like my building. And it was like that happened, and I had a gun within like 4 days.
Mhm.
Like there was no like, it was like, we'll buy it now and figure out what we're eating later type thing. I was like, I don't like my odds here. So no, my first gun was
What was
That was a
yours?
lie. That was
Huh?
in
What was your first gun?
Mine was just a little Bursa 380
Oh,
that I
okay.
paid $219 for off the clearance rack. And
I thought you were going to say a single shot shotgun.
No, I lied a little bit. My first handgun was a Glock 17. My first gun I bought for $89. I bought a Mosin Nagant.
Oh,
When they used to come in
When-
crates.
they came in crates.
Yeah, with the
I'm
Cosmoline on
really
them.
dating myself right
Yeah,
now.
I remember
It was
those.
$89 still in Cosmoline. I
Yeah.
bought it because we were going out to the ranch. I wanted my own gun. Probably not the best gun decision, but also it was
big boom.
it was a good gun decision because that thing has skyrocketed in price.
Oh, yeah, it's a
Well,
collector's item
it's a
now.
Yeah.
The amount of people who were that I brought it to a range day the one day with some friends, and they're like, "You have a Mosin?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Oh my god, I've been looking for one." They're like $500. I'm like, I'm not talking about how much I paid for my Mosin.
Well,
Really?
Really? What? But
Yeah.
it's crazy to think the amount of, like you said, a lot of people made game time decisions. I know I scrounged for months and months. I was like taking $100 out of every paycheck to go get it. I still remember the day I bought my first handgun. I remember going in and filling out the paperwork and sitting there going, wow, there's a lot of guns on this floor. And about 2 weeks later, there were no guns on the floor.
Oh, wow.
I bought my first handgun the day of Sandy Hook.
Oh.
I was at the store when it was happening,
Oh,
and they were
man.
like, "Hey, did you know what's going on?" I'm like, "What's going on?" And then the very next week, like I went to go get I went to the range. I'm like, "Cool, there's 9mm everywhere." I went to the range, no ammo.
Yeah.
Or we came back, no ammo. I was like, "What a night and day difference to get."
Yeah. How quickly it happens.
Quickly it happened. It
Yeah.
was like night and day. I was like, "Wow." It was crazy to see. Like I walked into the same store. I'm like, "You guys have nothing."
yeah.
it's like, were you robbed?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what happened?
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy because what other time in America, other than the toilet paper from COVID, right? What other time were the store shelves empty of something? Almost never, right? You don't
Yeah.
go to the store and say, "Oh, there's no batteries."
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I mean, there's
even-
nothing else other than ammunition in general that will
Even this
disappear.
last go around, like it was crazier than the first time with the pig shortage. It was crazier to see going in, and I had go in. I remember the day before they sent us all home to work from home. I went up to a company, an online retail friend of ours that is in Ohio. And I went in there and I bought a case of steel 9mm. And this is, I'm dating, and people are going to, okay, there's no way. I paid $112 for 1,000 rounds of 9mm. And I
Really? Yep.
With the steel case? Yeah.
I bought 2 cases, and I'm like, cool, I'm good to go. And then I went and took 3 training classes, and then I'm like, I need to call some friends. And I called a bunch of friends. I'm like, hey, buddy, you got any 9mm? Yeah, I do. But it was crazy to even think, like, I had enough 9mm to get through classes, and I had stuff, and I walked into the local shops and like, hey, do you have any extra 9mm you can sell? And I was like, I don't. Like, I do, but I'm using it. I've got classes coming up and things like that. And they're like, we're really hurting. And I've never seen a gun store so, like, the first the Obama era craze, like stores were empty, but there was still
It was still being manufactured
there
and
was
shipped
still
and
ammo on the shelf and things like that. This is the first time that I've seen like nothing. Like there was shops that had a gun.
Yeah. Well, more to your point, we work with a lot of, we have a Caliber Club program, which is our gun store and range program. And we work with 9 Line Apparel. We have a wholesale program with them. And it was crazy because we would be getting messages from gun stores that are like, we don't have anything to sell. So we're going to get some t-shirts because it's get t-shirts and try to stay in business, or just continuing to pay for a building with nothing to sell. And it's like, we don't have, because, it's, we talk about like the gun and ammo shortages, but like like we got some calls where it was like, hey, do you know some like holster companies? Do you have like a recommendation? Because it's like
Wow.
people were getting their concealed carry permits or they were in a constitutional carry state. And like when you're starting from nothing, you're starting from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And like all of a sudden, like it's just you're out. And they're looking around, they're like, so what can we sell?
Yeah.
Like, we're about to change our name.
We're gonna start selling car parts.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like, how are we
get
gonna
those?
how do we keep the doors open? And
Sorta.
like
Yeah.
we joke about it now, but like being that store owner in those moments must have been terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, being on the
Because-
manufacturing side was terrifying.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
too.
It was
Yeah.
really I was working at Faxon during this, and even during that time, we had just the SHOT Show 2020 just launched our rifle line, and I remember being super pumped about it and selling I sold the first 100 guns in company history. I was like, yay! And then the orders started rolling in, and then I started getting the phone calls like, hey, when is this going to ship? When are we going to be able to get these? And I'm like, hold on, let me make some calls. And even on our side, like steel was hard to get. We couldn't get lowers made fast enough. We couldn't get stuff made fast enough. And then I remember it at the time, and somebody probably broke it. My largest order was from the shop that was down the street, small shop down the street, 996 guns. They ordered in one batch.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And I walked into the office and I go, hey. And I still remember the look on the director of sales face. I was like, hey, I just got an order for guns. He goes, oh, great. Like, what are we looking at? I'm like, 996 guns. And he goes, say that again. 996 guns. And he's like, there's no way. Like, there's no way that this is possible. I'm like, yeah. And I printed off the order and I handed it to him. He's like, we are in times that, like, he's like, that's 3 years, like, to get that built.
Yeah.
It's 3 years because we were getting so slow movement of stuff. And, you know, the same store, I called them the day they were able to reopen their doors. I called them and I was like, hey, you mind if I swing by? I want to just say hi because I'm sitting at home. I'm bored. I want to I want some social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, come on over. And I walk over and I'm like, you guys, your shop's empty. He goes, yeah, we sold 300 guns today.
Oh gosh.
And I'm like, what? He goes, we broke Black Friday records. We've
Wow.
never, like, every day for some of these shops, they were breaking records. The issue was, like, they couldn't get resupply from everything.
Yeah.
And it was an unprecedented time.
I mean, there were several people that called us and they were looking for t-shirts so that they could keep their doors open because they were basically like just waiting for a truck, and the truck would arrive. They'd open up the door. Crowds of people would come in.
Yeah, yeah.
They would buy
That was
everything
it.
and then they'd leave. And they're like, well, what are we going to do now?
So I got a question for you though. 996 guns. Why couldn't you upsell another 4 and make it an even
Yeah.
1,000?
I tried.
You're like, I need an ounce in here. Come on.
This is an odd number.
really tried. I was like, you can't squeak. I was good friends with the buyer. And I remember his last name was Pancake. And I'm not gonna say that's how I remember. He's such a good guy. But I was like, come on, Pancake, give me like 4 more guns, man. I was like, I'll make it worth your time. Just 4 more. He's like, dude, you're asking for 4 more on such a large order, and I'm like, but
I just need an even number, man.
I really like round numbers.
You like round numbers.
Huge
Break
fan of the
1,000.
metric system.
And he's just like, he basically told me to go away and not so many kind words. And so I remember delivering the first order of it. I think I delivered 30 of the first order. That's how close we were. I would leave the shop in Cincinnati, drive up to, because he was down the street. I'd drive the hour to Dayton, back up to his shop, open up my trunk and go, all right, who's helping? And just carry I
Open
dropped
up your
off. I
jaw.
dropped off 30. Well, yeah. I was hoping to God the whole time that Highway Patrol didn't pull me over. I'd have to.
That would be
Yeah,
a
it's
very
gonna be-
interesting
It's like
conversation.
So what's in your car? We're not going to talk about this.
Yeah.
The funny, I didn't even have the SUV at the time. I had my little hatchback sports car.
Oh,
so it
that's
was
funny.
loaded. With
It's
guns.
probably like,
It was like, hey. So I remember the first drop off, and I couldn't thank him enough. I'm like, you've made my year. Like, you don't understand. So I think I brought him a cigar and something to drink, and we sat there and we chatted, and then I left and then brought more orders, and it's again that states to the networking and the stuff in this industry. And the day I moved on from Faxon, I walked up to him like, hey man, it was great working with you. Like, thanks for everything. And he's just like, no, you don't. You're saying you were the best rep I've ever had. I'm like, why? Because you actually show up and come in. And that's another thing that we're seeing more and more of with reps coming in. But it was an experience. It's a friendship that I'll have for a lifetime with him. Every once in a while, he'll call me and check in and see how we're doing. But it was a crazy time. It was amazing in my position, it was amazing. But, you guys had probably a similar experience with ammo and going, hey, man, like we're hurting and we're getting this stuff out as fast as we can.
Well, and I was just thinking, it kind of speaks to the desperation of like the whole supply chain, right? So you've got the consumer doesn't have a gun and they're buying their first gun. They're desperate because they haven't bought a gun before, or if they already have guns, they always need more guns. And then the gun stores that they're running out of stock because everybody's buying them because there's some outside thing that's going on, in this case with COVID and just all the crime and just overall just causing fear in people's minds. And then the distributors, right, running out, manufacturers running out and running, as long as, 24 hours a day, as much as they could, trying to get in enough supply and enough primers or steel or whatever. And it always amazes me because you never really have seen that before in America, right? Until recently. But yeah, with us, because we basically have where people are pre-buying, right? So they're signed up for calibers and then they go into a pending state. On our website, it's actually pending. So you have ammunition pending. So right now it's pending for less than 24 hours. We verify that's in the warehouse and then we put it into their inventory, right? Their electronic inventory. And during that whole time frame, we just had stuff that was pending for a long time.
300 Blackout was one of those ones that just took forever.
300
to get
Blackout.
in, yeah.
I remember 6.5 Grendel, 410. I mean, all these things that you've heard of, like, oh, I can't find any of it. Well, for us, it was like we had customers buying it, but we weren't able to get any from anywhere. And so it was in
And
that
we made that
pending
very
state.
clear with them too, is that we're basically waiting in line for you.
Exactly.
And so we, there's always the option to
Exchange it
or sell it or, whatever. Like, also, if you want a refund on that amount or whatever, or you want to put it into a different caliber, like we made that very easy for them because sometimes people just got tired of waiting for stuff.
Is
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is there still calibers that are hard to get? I know 410 for the even after the supply chain, 410 was always, it's still hard to
410
get.
is,
Still pretty tough.
But
And actually, we trimmed our catalog. So we had at a time going into COVID timeframe, we had 500 variations. We literally went through like the Midway site and I was like, oh, 375 Ruger. I'm going to add that. And I'm going to add it in 3 different variations, like a dangerous game and a large game and, whatever.
Like whatever the offerings were.
and-
Because at the time you could get anything you wanted.
Yeah, I was like, we had, I can't even remember how many actual calibers, but probably
I thought it was over
300.
200.
Yeah, I was gonna say
It was
like
over
300 or
200.
something. And so with our thing, what we did was we let people sign up for anything. And then if like one person would buy one random thing, like let's say 375 Ruger, then I would go and make sure that we had that in stock. I would buy it from the distributor, from our distributors, and then we would allocate it to the customer because mostly they're probably buying, especially with the oddballs, they're building up to a full box.
So usually pretty expensive too.
And it's usually pretty expensive. And so we would buy one box, right? Or I would pre-buy sometimes, like if there's stuff out there, I'd be, oh, It was some random stuff.
9mm Flowbert was one of them.
About some 9mm Flowbert.
I never even heard of that.
I know we could tell you stories. I mean, we've got all kinds of stuff. And in fact, we were doing gun shows recently because what we did was we had all these oddball calibers, but nobody signed up for them. And so we had all this excess inventory.
Or people would sign up and then sell it back.
Oh, there was that too.
So then we were like,
we
okay.
had just all these like that one, or I'm trying to think of something like 6mm Creedmoor. It's like we just didn't have enough people
was another one
signed
that
up
we
for
ended
it.
up with extra.
But we trimmed our catalog. So what we did was we went from that 500, we went down to 100, and then now we're down to about 60 of the most common. I'm probably gonna need to bring back a handful. Like we took out 410 because I couldn't find it, and so I don't want to keep people on the list if I can't find it, and then they're just stuck in this perpetual, pending state. And so we have all of the most popular calibers now, and then we're going to be adding back a couple. But yeah, I mean, we did go through a time period when it was just oddballs,
So if someone selects something and it's not in stock with you, and that it's the next time for that withdrawal, it just continues to go up until you can fulfill it, right?
Yeah,
Is
so
that
it's in a
generally how it
pending
works?
state. Yeah. So if you think about like the box of something random that I was saying, so like they would sign up for it and then it would be pending. And so we're not telling them we have it, right? Because we're saying it's pending. It's like on back order. And then I would go get it. And then once we had it, then we would fulfill it to their inventory. And so that's exactly what happens in like a shortage situation, is where something common, let's say like 9mm or 5.56, we would have all of our customers that they're on auto buy. We've got probably 40% of our auto buys are 9mm, 5.56, 223 variations. And so they would, in a situation where we are having trouble getting stuff, or we have to wait a long time for stuff, our customers are in a pending state. And then once that truck rolls in and it's like, oh, we just got 3 pallets from PMC. Now it's like, okay, we're going to allocate all that inventory to all of our customers. And so it might be like 3 months worth of auto buys for somebody. And it's like ding, 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 ding. Then they get it. And then they say, oh, I've got my 500 rounds of 223. I'm just going to hit the ship button, because it's all, they get email notifications, so they know when they get everything. So
I'm going to ask what I'm assuming are your 3 most frequently asked questions.
Okay.
1, how much on average is shipping?
So it's over $250, it's free. And then below $250, we charge actual shipping.
So one confusion is that people say, well, I've spent $250. Why haven't I received my ammo? And the reason is because it's probably not complete boxes.
Right.
So it has to be $250 worth of shippable ammo, because we allocate, by partial rounds. So you might have 45.5 rounds of 9mm. Well, we can't ship that if it's in practice, because that's, it's a 50 round box. So it's like that 45.5 wouldn't go toward your shippable value.
But we do give people the option when they go to ship out, they can buy up on all of their partials. So like in that case with the 45.5, you could just buy
a few more rounds,
4.5 rounds,
get a full box.
And then you've got that box.
And then the second question is, in the case of another shortage, which we all pray that there's not, but in the case of another shortage, you said the term, we're standing in line for you. Did you find that because you were able to purchase at such higher quantity that you were being refilled faster than other orders? Or is this kind of like a fast tracking type situation?
I think it especially more now than it would have been in the past, because we have manufacturer relationships. And so we have standing orders, with the manufacturer right now. So like, let's say right now, all of a sudden there's a big shortage of something, right?
Well, in October, there was a bit of a shortage of 5.56. So that we did recently go through this, but just with a single caliber.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So we did put 5.56 on allocation so that we would make sure that we
had it.
Yeah. I mean, longer allocation basically. So we would make sure we got it in, and then, but we had these manufacturer relationships. And so it's easier for us to get it now than it would have been in the past. Yeah.
That's awesome, because I think that there's always a certain amount of hesitation or fear. When all of the shortages were happening, I know several friends that were like, well, I'm going to go take off work Friday to go stand in line because they're supposed to get a truck. So I'm hoping to get something. and
It wasn't me. I swear.
but for people, taking off work is not,
Mhm.
that's quite the
Yeah, and
personal
then
investment.
to not even have a guarantee,
Yes.
right? Because you might stand in line for 3 hours and get nothing.
And maybe it's a truck full of ski equipment or something, you know,
Yeah, depending on the
whatever.
store you went to.
Yeah.
Listen, during the Obama shortage, I may have know what stuff was on what truck for this place I was working at. Maybe I was at the door early in the morning getting all the 22 on hands up.
Well, but like certain places were putting limits on what you could buy. So it was like you get 2 boxes of 22.
Well, and then
you know.
people would go in and they would hide it around the store.
Oh, yeah.
There was those stories, right? So
Oh, yeah.
and then their buddies would come and they go, "Oh, go check by the fishing rods."
We were a brand new store when I got hired on, and we got a shipment of everything. And I remember very distinctly there was a gun show going on down the road, and there was a guy who came to the store, bought a brick of 22, left, went to the gun show, sold it, came back, bought another brick of 22, went back to the gun show, sold it, and then a third guy came in and was like, "Yeah, I just went to the gun show and I bought 1,000 rounds." I felt so bad for this too. He goes, "I bought 1,000 rounds of 5.56 for $1,000." And I
All
go,
around.
and I go, "I got 1,000 rounds right here for $429."
Oh,
And I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And he's like, "Dang it, I knew I should have came here first." I'm like, "Do you have somebody you can sell 1,000 rounds to? Because I can sell you this." He ended up buying it too, and I guess he went back to the gun show and sold his stuff again. But it was crazy, like how the secondary market for ammo just went through the roof, and people were just coming in and buying. Like when shipments of 9mm would come in, I would like snag a couple boxes, and I'd keep them behind the counter, and then I would come back, I would buy it on break, and then put it away. And I remember this girl comes up to the counter, and she's like, "I really need 9mm ammo." And I was like, "Here you go. This is what I have.
Special
This is
stash.
my special stash, my little stash for me." But like Black Friday was crazy. We got shipments then of large Blazer, but the prices were through the roof, and it was an insane time. And I really hope we don't see it again. But who knows what happens? It is an election year, I believe we're going to see another like uptick like we normally do around that time. But I think our industries are a little bit more prepared. A lot of companies are starting to open up primer and brass manufacturers here in the state. I know SIG just opened a huge facility. I know there's a couple companies down in Florida that have opened up their own primer and case facility. I know that there's another place opening up for the shotgun shell plastic because that became an issue as well. So,
well, it's all the market, right? It's the capitalist system, and when there's a need, it's going to get filled. And so, if you think about with all of the more capacity that we have in the system, but we also have more shooters, right? And so there's that.
Just overall higher demand.
Yeah. But ultimately, actually, if you think about what we're trying to do, it really is to help. We're never going to be able to prevent a shortage, right? Or a panic buying situation. But if our customers at least have confidence in knowing that, hey, Ammo Squared's got my ammo, I don't have to go and stand in line. Now that's one less person that's trying to panic buy.
Yeah.
We can help them ride out the storm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think give some people some confidence, right? Especially, if you are, again, what I like about your product and your brand is the fact that you don't have to have enough money to purchase a whole box.
Right.
Like, I think it is so awesome. Like you said, it's a $5 buy-in a month. If it takes you 4 months to get a box, so be it.
Yeah.
And, especially if it gets, you're kind of getting a fairly good price, because in a month that ammo can fluctuate tremendously. So there's one last question that I think a lot of people will have, maybe not.
Go for it.
but we're gonna go there anyway.
All right.
Never know until
so you were
ask.
talking about
Yeah.
the fact that you got some green tip ammo in the past. I know we brought up like steel casing. Like, what is the diversity of what people can expect even within those, 2 or 3 tiered, groupings that you have?
So out of like common rounds, you mean? Because we trimmed our catalog down, and then it's actually a lot of diversity because we have and everything is on our website, so you can always go in and click on prices. We've actually got kind of a cool price chart that goes back in time and it looks at like the highs and the lows and then our price, and then we list right there exactly what we're shipping out right now. And so and that's actually something you didn't ask, but is kind of a misconception, is that people think they have a bin with their name on it and they don't, right? So it's you have an online account that has a certain amount of ammo, and when I total all of that up, I need to make sure I've got that in the warehouse. And so then when it comes time, there's actually a good thing too, is that when it comes time to ship that, you don't have a bin that's been sitting there for 5 years with dusty old ammo. You're getting fresh new ammo that literally just came off of our truck, it came off a factory truck and has been sitting in our warehouse maybe for a month or two, because of our, churn time, or our turnover, I guess. But as far as the diversity, we really do try to introduce people to different brands. But we take responsibility in the fact that we're picking the ammo for them, right? And so I don't go to questionable brands or things that I wouldn't shoot myself and then expect people to take that. So actually, we don't have steel case anymore. That was one of the ones that got cut. The only one we do have is 76239. It's obvious, but and we don't have green tip anymore, because the other problem with the green tip was we had to create a category for, it was 5.56, no green tip, because there were so many people that said, or in the early days, we just lump it all together, and they said, I can't shoot that at my range because, steel targets. And so we just decided as a company, we'll just eliminate that. But so where it does get tricky is hunting and match ammo, because obviously usually somebody, if they're going to, sight their gun in at a certain, certain bullet weight, even certain type of bullet. And so in those instances, we still send a variety. Usually we send at least 2, sometimes 3, for both hunting and match. And I always say, try it out, use it more like a way to find new things that you would want to shoot versus, I didn't get all of this one thing that I always shoot.
Yeah, it gives you a chance to see what your gun really likes.
You might find something that your rifle loves that you just had no idea. So.
Yeah. Well, we were just shooting 300 Blackout this last week, and there was the Barnes 150 or the 110 grain, the TSX bullet, which is an awesome bullet. Well, for whatever reason, my gun didn't like it. It was like shooting off to the side, like everything was centered with everything else I was shooting, but with this one bullet, it was like down low and to the left, and that's the classic low and to the left, but this was a
but
rifle.
It wasn't a trigger issue.
but it was just this one that it didn't like, right? And so like I can now find, if I've got like 5 different types of, hunting 308 or
300
Blackout, I could find what my gun likes and shoots the best.
This has been fantastic. I think this has been a great podcast. Even though we did go over time, it was great because the conversation just kept flowing. So I'm going to give you guys the chance to shout out any socials, website, anywhere they want to go. Go ahead and go for it.
Yeah, ammosquared.com. You can sign up there. We're actually not big on, we have accounts on Facebook and Instagram, but we're not
friends.
Active.
We don't hang out.
Yeah. But we do have an X account.
Yeah, we do have an X account. I mean, we technically have a Facebook page and an Instagram, but we don't post on it because we don't want to get zucked.
That's but ammosquared.com.
Yeah, ammosquared.com. And we have a newsletter you can sign up for. Dan, he won't say this, but he's a great writer. He's a smart guy.
Sometimes
he has his moments, but he just, and our CTO has started writing some blog posts and newsletter posts and things. I wrote one so far. I'm a busy lady. So, but yeah, I mean, there are ways to get in touch with us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us today. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the little bell for notification on YouTube. Leave a 5-star review on all the podcasting hosts. Make sure to, if you're not already a member, go down to the description. There is a link for a discount for $20 for the year. And thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.